go to Washington. Cameron Hudson is a senior associate at the Africa Program of the Center for Strategic and International Studies. First of all, John, thank you so much indeed for holding on. I know you've been waiting for a long time. Cameron, sorry. Are these guys super popular or what?
No, I think it's because they're super out of touch with their populations. These are leaders who have not really, enjoyed free and fair elections. They have become essentially one with the state themselves and their parties. There's no distinguishing them from the state, and so they're able to control public opinion, state media, and essentially ignore public opinion when it serves their purposes. And so you're seeing a group of leaders increasingly out of touch with the modern world and with their populations. Let's not forget that these populations and the populations of Africa are the youngest in the world. We're talking about, on a continent-wide basis, an average age of 19 years old. And so when you combine that with a leader that's well into their 90s, as many of these leaders are, you're seeing 75-year difference in age. How can they possibly understand the needs and the wants of their populations?
When it comes to election time, is there a difference between buying a vote and actually having so much influence over everybody's daily lives and livelihoods that those people almost don't have a choice but to vote for the incumbent? Is there a difference between those two things?
Well, right now, I don't think that there is. I mean, in certain places like Uganda, we have seen real opposition rise up and try to contest the elections. But there, the government has been able to manipulate the vote, manipulate the pre-election environment, arrest and detain members of the opposition and leading opposition candidates. We've seen this in a number of countries. I think the idea is that because these individuals become the state themselves and become able to control all levers of state power, not just the monopoly on the use of force, but the use of the airwaves, cutting off websites or cutting off the internet, using the law to prevent the free assembly of people, imposing financial restrictions on political parties, using every lever of state power to undermine the opposition. They are able to extend their stay in power for decades.
Yes, but see, what I'm trying to get at is that after such a long time in power, so many jobs, so many livelihoods become interconnected with the system that these leaders have imposed upon their countries, that it becomes almost impossible to extricate oneself, even if you would want to. And you mentioned the youth of Africa. You would have thought that the youth would have the courage to rise up against these old leaders who they may feel, maybe they do feel they represent them, but if they felt they didn't represent them, that they would rise up like they have in some countries that you've mentioned. But these tentacles of power over time begin to affect almost every sector of society, don't they?
Absolutely. And I think that we've seen, where you have these leaders in power for decades, you're seeing levels of corruption. And again, it's not even corruption at this point because the state and the individual, both from a political perspective, but also from a financial and economic perspective, they become one. And so the assets of the party and the individual become intertwined with the assets of the state. And so I think that there is this idea that the risk is that going into the street, you take your life in your hands by protesting these leaders that are there now, and so much of the system, the patronage system that has grown into every corner of business and society is acting in unison. And so the idea of upsetting one of these regimes really, I think, begins to upset the entire roots of the state, and I think that causes a lot of questioning about how far people are willing to go to try to overturn these leaders.
Cameron, if you don't mind giving me just a one-word answer, do you see Museveni or Biya losing the next election?
I don't. No.
Really appreciate you just having the patience to stay with us because it's been so interesting. It always is when I talk to you, Cameron. Thank you so much.